Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Patriots Nation. I'm Mike Closer, hanging out with Tracy Belmonte. How you doing, Tracy?
Wonderful. I love that introduction, Mike. I don't know what you did to me, but I cannot take my eyes off myself. I am just wowing my own self right now.
Then it worked. It worked. The audience is going to dig it the most, I'm sure they will. It actually does look very good, by the way. It looks like we're right next to each other. We actually are, and people just probably don't believe us.
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
Well, let's see. Last week we hit on some pretty interesting topics, and I think we have to do some follow up on them because it's a continuing situation. One in particular, of course, is going to be the Caravan update, and you'll give it some awesome creative names. And another is the Mueller Flynn situation and deeper reads into it of what it's become over the last 2 days after further review. And again, a little bit more about Pelosi and her let's say her progress, her thoughts about taking over as speaker if she is so fortunate to get this esteemed position. And we'll do a full breakdown on, I guess, what upcoming games will be played. So, with that said, Tracy, what is the latest and greatest at the border?
I'm sorry, I'm not torturing my dog. My dog is here with me in studio.
Special guest.
Sophie wanted to be part of the show and give her input on the immigrant caravan, migrant invaders. Well, Mike, I did talk to my friends in the health department, and this is what I found out. The situation is a lot more precarious than we are being told because journalists are being kept away from most of the illnesses, most of the sick people, and most of the squalor. I mean, we've seen some pictures of these people living in filth. It's even worse than we thought. So there are confirmed three types of tuberculosis, and it's just absolutely filthy. And sadly, when they use the bathroom, it's backing up into the showers. So they're bathing in E. coli. It's a really bad situation. And they're relying on international humanitarian aid groups to come in and provide medical supplies and assistance. So let me explain to you a day in the life of one of these immigrants. Okay. So they sleep on the floor. Okay, they sleep outside, they sleep on the floor, they sleep in close quarters next to each other. Now, when they wake up, they have to wait 30 minutes or so to use the restroom. Then there's a long line for food where they have to wait an hour. And then if they're ill, say you need a teaspoon of cough syrup where, we just go in the bathroom, take a swig of the bottle or whatever, they have to wait an hour to get even just a teaspoon of cough syrup or to get some Tylenol. And they're running out of supplies very, very quickly. So it's a really, really bad situation down there, way worse than we've been told. And, Mexico should have stopped them from coming in the first place. And really, this is their issue and their problem. Because of the Bush 41 funeral and those festivities that have gone on all week, it's really pushed the caravan out of the news, but it's going to come back into the news I want to say bullet. I don't mean it in that way, but it's really gonna,
a shock to the system.
it's gonna be a shock to the system. It's you'll hear a lot more about it next week.
So I think, honestly, convenient. I know it does cover it up, and it got worse during the time that it's being covered up by media. Now, you said a lot of these people last time were arriving here already ill. Now, on top of that, are there statistics saying that now they're already here ill? Are they spreading that illness to the people that were not ill living amongst already in Tijuana, for example? Like, is it spreading? Is it growing? Amongst others that were not part of the caravan. Is there a statistic on that yet? And that could be an interesting thing to find out.
I will do some digging on that. Like I said, I have contacts in the health departments that are giving me a lot of great inside information. And I will, as soon as we're done, I will email. I'll send an email out.
So the mayor of Tijuana said that they were spending upwards of $40,000 a day that they do not have out of their budget to cover what you just listed as medical expenses, cough syrups, let's say blankets, some food. And you mentioned humanitarian efforts. You're just talking like all these different groups from different international peacekeeping type missions are showing up to help?
Exactly. That's what they're relying on for pretty much everything.
Uh-huh. And also, I know that there were other things going on. For example, I think if you could touch on that other story you told me pre-show. I don't know much about that one, but if you don't mind.
Oh, I love this story.
Yeah.
So there was a 19-year-old Honduran immigrant. Her name is Mary Serrano Hernandez. She was 8 months pregnant, 7 months pregnant when she started her journey. She's with her husband and her 3-year-old son. Her dream was to have an anchor baby, which of course speaks to Trump's problem and a lot of our problem
Hmm.
with birthright citizenship. Well, she is doing what a lot of people are doing that are in these caravans and in these camps because the situation is so bad. They're actually risking it by jumping the border walls. They're sneaking in somehow. And this woman, now she's 8 months pregnant. She jumped the border wall. 3-year-old son and husband, they all were apprehended, and then they claimed asylum. So of course they have to be taken in. And she was having some stomach pain, so she did give birth to another son who was an American citizen. Now, not only does this highlight the problem with birthright citizenship,
Hmm.
but now it highlights the problem with chain migration, because you know that Tia Josefina and Tio Pablo and all the relatives are going to come now because of chain migration. And the funniest part was, and this story really needs to get highlighted in our media, because she's got the attitude that we can't stand. It was her dream to give birth in America. That was her plan.
Hmm.
And she said she felt like a criminal because she was handcuffed to the bed after she gave birth, and all of the supplies that the hospital gave to her were confiscated when they went to this detention center. It's like, hello, you are a criminal. You jumped the border, sweetie. I'm
Hmm.
sorry that they handcuffed
Right.
you to the bed, but you don't have asylum yet. But she knows now that the baby is born here and has birthright citizenship, she's a citizen. She knew it, and she had this big grin on her face.
Sure.
She knew it. It was just like, that's the kind of attitude that really grates people on our nerves, people on our side's nerves. That entitled,
Hmm.
spoiled attitude.
Big time. In fact, if you and I happen to be, let's say, at the border crossing between Texas and Mexico, and you and I decided to sneak into Mexico, and somehow we were apprehended, we would actually be held without any due process. We would pay a $5,000 fine minimum and may or may not get a phone call within a few weeks. And because they have laws, Tracy, that they follow, which is quite interesting, by the way.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Law and order, following the laws. I mean, not for nothing. Yeah, okay, okay. You got handcuffed to the bed, but you are a criminal. Your stuff got confiscated. You're a criminal. They have to do that. It's procedure. It's not like they're not going to give you baby wipes and diapers and little toy. Your room in this detention center looks better than most college kids' dorm rooms that they're paying a fortune for, or their parents are paying a fortune for. So give me a break, cry me a river, build me a bridge and get over it, or rather,
Right.
build me a wall and don't get over it.
There you go. That's the attitude I'm talking about. In fact, when you made that comment last week about, and I totally agree with it, that until we could all agree that we helped every veteran not wait for health care, we've taken care of our own American issues, which include we have many homeless, we have homeless children, we have hungry children, and if we can somehow one day make a magical statement that that was all taken care of, then I think a great humanitarian effort to go take care of others is a great thing to do when you can afford to do it. But you can't do it when you're unhealthy yourself.
Absolutely. And it's not that, they're sitting there in these camps and they're making these flags and these signs. President Trump, help us, President Trump, give us work. We have a lot of problems here without their additional problems. We are a compassionate people, of course. I actually had a liberal arguing with me about Jesus and Mary looking for refuge, and they couldn't find it in Bethlehem. That how could I be so callous during Christmas season? And I'm like, yo, hold on a second, because Jesus and Mary were not immigrants. They were actually going to register to pay their taxes in the Roman Empire. That's what they did. So it wasn't the same thing, not even a little bit, because Joseph and Mary couldn't find shelter because all the other rooms were booked because everyone else was being good citizens and they were going to pay taxes. So shush.
Everyone tries to conveniently reinterpret something to fit a narrative to make themselves look, like things are going to look a little bit better than they are. And, we dealt with that for 8 years with the president that tried to dress things up. But you can't dress stuff like this up and make it look good when you're disobeying the law. And that's really what we're built on. So until we agree we're doing that, we shouldn't be doing these other things. So if I understand, though, there's still more people planning on coming through multiple caravans. They say still could get upwards one day of 100K. And I also saw some reports where maybe some were either moved or had moved away from Tijuana and maybe to try another entrance. I don't know where or what's going on, but all of a sudden they said there were less in the town center in Tijuana. So, do you have any other intel of other border crossing areas?
I do not.
Mm-hmm.
However, how are the organizers of this caravan and these caravans not arrested yet? I mean, not for nothing. These are human rights violations. You're playing with people's lives. And when I asked my friend at the health department, have there been any deaths due to the
Good
conditions
question.
there, due to the illnesses?
Mm-hmm.
She said, I can't answer that, but I think you know in your heart the answer. So, according to me, that meant yes, indeed, there have been people that have died because of these conditions. So, why aren't the organizers in prison yet? That's what I want to know. And that includes any sort of charities that were in on it, whether it be Catholic charities or other, humanitarian type of organizations
Mm-hmm.
that make their bread and butter through crisis like this.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to know.
That's a really good question. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if anyone's going to take a deeper look at it. The incoming new Mexican president, I know, has had strategic chats with President Trump. And I'm sure, knowing how our president acts, he would be talking strategy and ideas and things that they could do. And knowing him, he would probably make it also about the wall during the
Mm-hmm.
conversation, because we need to stand up for ourselves. Either way, it's going to be hard to shift this narrative when we get to the other topic in a little while, Tracy, but it's going to be hard to switch the narrative when we do get to the wall conversation of what
Mm-hmm.
really needed to be done in the first place, because this is a solution, the wall itself, that was voted on and called a fence, that was approved basically by many people on the left and called a fence. And still to this day, I think we're over a decade later, and we're still arguing, and we're still dealing with a worse influx than ever. And now it's called an invasion. It's not really a caravan. It is an invasion, right?
Yeah, yeah, you know what? What's disgusting is that this is everything about Washington politics that people like you and I and everybody watching hates. It should not take this long when you've had a promise to build the wall. And not for nothing, if I were Mexico, I'm not, but if I were, I would seriously consider building my own wall on my southern border so that these caravans cannot come in. Because if they did not let those caravans in, we wouldn't have this problem. They wouldn't have this problem, because it is a humanitarian crisis. You're talking about life and death for these people. Now, not everybody is MS-13. Not everybody is up to no good, but there are a lot of them in there. So we can't let them all in. And you get checked more when you go on a plane by TSA than these people get
True.
getting asylum coming through the border. If I bring a bottle of water and in my carry-on and I forget about it, I'm treated like a criminal.
Right.
These
Right.
people can walk in unchecked with everything. So, if I were in Mexico, and maybe President Trump has suggested this, we don't know what's been going on, but we do know that they do get along, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
I would seriously consider putting a wall on my southern border. Maybe Trump can help them build it. Who knows? He is a builder.
He is a builder. That's a good point. And we only need, what was it, 19 people killed 3,000 or so on 9/11. You don't need many people to make such a huge impact.
That's
And by the
right.
way, another version of killing would be spreading these diseases at a very high ratio. Even the tuberculosis in general. If three of them sneak in, end up just going to eat at a local diner, and live in a local town for 3 or 4 weeks, all of a sudden the doctor's offices are going to start seeing strains of tuberculosis with the citizens of these small border towns, and they're going to wonder, well, what the heck happened here? And that would spread fairly quickly.
Yeah, and we have some nasty bugs out there. There are some strains of tuberculosis where we're only two antibiotics ahead of that bacteria. That bacteria is so virulent that you could catch something that is antibiotic resistant. So, we really have to protect our health, our children's health, and it is America first. I don't care how callous it sounds. We have enough problems as it is without allowing more to come in. In a way, President Trump's tough stance on the border, what he's been doing, is actually almost like a quarantine in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I'm very proud of him for doing this. It's almost like our own little private quarantine on Ellis Island, keeping them there. Yeah, it's not so good for Mexico. It's not so good for Tijuana, but
Right.
it is good for us, much better for us.
And then that's up to Mexico to take a stand for themselves and do something between them and the countries that offended them, meaning they have to get with Guatemala, get with El Salvador. They need to say what they need to say in negotiations. Maybe if there is a way to broker something between those two countries and to help the experience where they don't have to, caravan through Mexico, then I think there's a solution to be had between all of them. And by the way, their economy is not very good. I know that. But Mexico's huge. They cover a lot of territory. And that's a lot to manage down there. And I believe Guatemala, there is a wall that was built. I don't recall the year between Guatemala and Mexico, but I understand that they damaged that in getting through already. So I did see a picture of it, and it was not quite Trump-like.
I was gonna say I picture it to be like one of those 2 feet high fences that I block the certain rooms that I don't want my dog to go into.
Yeah, it's like that.
That's
that
what I
fence.
picture when I think of though. I don't think of like a nice big Trump wall where I could take a selfie in front of that wall that's like 20 feet high.
Right, like you would go visit the wall and go, look where I'm at,
Yep. Exactly.
Yes.
Like I'm waiting for that day, and that day is going to come. And President Trump, he was tweeting about the drugs. And I'm so glad that he was, because a big story that was not covered
Yes.
because of Bush 41's death was, President Trump made a deal with President Xi to make fentanyl a controlled substance over in China. Now, fentanyl goes and it gets made and mass produced in China illegally, and they make it into street drugs, meaning that it looks exactly identical to pharmaceutical Xanax or pharmaceutical. But it's full of fentanyl. Fentanyl is 100 times more powerful than heroin.
And it's cheap.
Extraordinarily. Oh, yeah, it's cheap and extraordinarily deadly. And, China and these unscrupulous people, they have deals with the Mexican drug cartels.
Yep.
It gets through our border that way, and it's killing our children. And I have personally witnessed children overdose on street Xanax that was pure fentanyl. You hear drug overdose deaths from heroin. They're not dying from the heroin. They're dying because they're injecting what they think is heroin that's 100 times more powerful in fentanyl. So nobody even really talks about the drug part. That is vital. Huge. Vital.
It did get covered up by the news. That goes back to media. Now, I said if there was a score to be kept of how we're doing, we would be winning 100-0. But because of the media, the way it is, and I'm going to include all social media, all opposition media, everything on television, you name it, we only get about 8% of our message out there, and we work very hard to do it. And knowing that it's covered up that much, they can't see the victories. And the victories don't get discussed in it. Like you just gave a great victory. It's a beautiful victory. In fact, that would have been record-breaking. If Obama did what just happened, he would be anointed and probably have a special chair installed. It would just be a whole to-do. So I'm glad you brought it up again, and I hope that it gets more play. In fact, I saw President Trump touting his own news because he has to.
He has to. And what would be really, really super cool, and I actually know a couple of people that are approaching President Trump with this, is that if he would come on like what we do in new media format and actually deliver his news every day to us. This is what I did today.
Yes.
So I think that would be a really cool idea. And the mainstream media, the opposition media would be forced to cover that. And it would be a way of getting the truth out. And he can do it in his colorful way. That's what gets the media reporting on him.
It
but
does.
Can you believe the nickname he called so-and-so? That he's got to do that. He's got to brand people because it's the only way opposition media is going to cover anything he says.
Totally true. Last week on my own show, I made 2 comments very similar. I said, one, he should either A, be a guest on a new media person show and either deliver the news or be interviewed and get the real back and forth questions, not anything pre-written, off the cuff, regular chit chat. And on top of that, I think one really cool thing he could do to somehow touch one new American citizen per day, which costs nothing, is simply follow one person back on Twitter a day. And all he has to do is choose somebody that's the most MAGA that maybe Kellyanne notices, or maybe someone on his staff goes, hey, you got to check out this Patriots Nation show. They're killing it out there. You need to give them a shout out, and just one little shout out says, hey, check out this channel. And those little things would help grow the new media space because it's closer to the unfiltered truth than what everyone knows to be opposition media, and even Twitter being shadow banning you and many others. So I think that would be an awesome thing to see. And again, cost nothing. It's just time, and actually would build a lot of, it would just build so much more goodness into everything we're working so hard for.
Do you know how we were talking about how Fox, pardon me, Fox News was getting into the new media spectrum by having a pay service?
Yes.
I know a few people that work at Fox. It is crashing and burning miserably. So your prediction was correct. People are not getting that interaction, that one-on-one. That feedback. So yeah, it's crashing and burning really bad.
And thanks for saying that. When I went a step further, I realized they also added like a game show to it, and so they're trying to take it down a comedy road. And what the people are craving is just right now they want nothing less than the truth. And when you report on the things you do, I know you got to a real source that is credible, and there's a reason that you have never broadcasted anything without supported evidence. And when I see others do it, I get so upset because I see people being led down a path that it's not for me to tell them it's wrong. It really, listen, I'm not even a professional in this industry, Tracy. This isn't what I studied to do, but I have a passion to do it. So I'm going to get as close to right as I can on behalf of the president. That's what I'm here to do. That's what you've been doing since I've met you, and since every time you and I review things, we try to get to like every detail. I love that.
It's our civic duty. It's our civic duty, Mike, because it's easier. Even when people that hate us watch us, the haters watch us, maybe they'll pick something up. Maybe they'll walk away. They'll have a moment. But this is our civic duty. We're not sitting here getting paid to do this. We're doing this out of our, and have you slept today yet?
No, I have no sleep today, but I've had so much fun today.
Yeah, like you haven't slept. I'm up at 5. I work a day job.
Yeah.
So we're doing this because it's a passion. And we're doing this because our president works tirelessly for us. We must return the favor and report the real news. By the way, I apologize. I had a Marco Rubio moment with my water. I'm about to have another one. So
go ahead. Go right ahead.
With the filtering, it may look like I'm drinking nothing, the set right now.
But go for it. Listen, we are authenticity. And in fact, I hit the wrong button on my show the other day again, and I'm playing like the wrong video clip, but yet I'm talking about a different video clip, and you realize you do these things and everyone just laughs about it. That's what I'm talking about. And that's how it should be, the real side of things. And today, the last 2 days, I spent time rereading the Mueller Flynn stuff. And the reason I read things over and over, and I know you're a teacher, and you're an educator, and you probably reread your own notes. So I went back, I reread the charging document, and I tried to understand why would it really have been released? There was no cause. All he had to do was say, I will not be charging or having him serve any time and recommending no prison time. But instead he put out a charging document. So it led me down another road to get inside the mind of who is Mueller. So then what I did with that, Tracy, is I went back over the weekend before, and I happened to study all about Ken Starr. And my wife and I watched all about Ken Starr back in the day, about Whitewater. We watched every detail of it. Now, Ken Starr went down every possible road as a good steward of his position and was actually wearing people out. He was digging so deep, okay? And it's their job to dig very deep into all angles and then wear them out if there's nothing there. That's what they do, right?
Absolutely.
So I had to think Mueller's probably doing the same, and everyone's demonizing him, but the one thing he hasn't done, he hasn't leaked. And another thing he hasn't done is really done any jabbing or anything in the press and embarrassed the moment that I've seen, okay? Now, President Trump has done tweeting, but that is the art of the deal, because you have to own the moment and you have to be able to kind of own the narrative, and that's what President Trump does very well, okay? So with that said, Tracy, I put together some notes that I think tell the story of what I see happening right now, and I'm very confident and comfortable with.
So, I can't wait to hear it.
All right.
I feel like I should get cozy and have some hot cocoa, because I'm all like, tell us, Mike.
So get cozy. So here we go. So I'm going to say it, and then afterwards I'd love your take on it. So here we go. I'll say it this way. Flynn was the centerpiece of the media fabricated Russian collusion narrative. The media conspiracy theorists claimed that Flynn was guilty of treason. That's all they were talking about. He's guilty of treason. Juan Williams says he's guilty of treason. and that they said he had a back channel to Putin to help Trump steal the election from Hillary. And that's basically what you and I probably heard a million times. Would you agree that far?
Yes.
All right. So then the liberals and the media took on a massive loss on this one, because it leads me to believe that they think that Flynn actually flipped on our president. Now, he's a general. His resume is incredible. He was the leading part of President Trump's team. His job was to reach out to Russia. He did not do anything wrong by doing what he did. It actually is his job. But
he would have been negligent, Mike.
Huh?
Sorry to interject. He would have been negligent if he didn't reach out to Russia as well as some other countries in that position to get the administration up and running when they took office in January of that year.
Spot on. Spot on negligent. In fact, I would never expect him to be negligent, because he is a general, and the one thing you can count on is the by-the-book protocol. So I would not have expected anything less, right?
Right, absolutely. Like I said, like he wanted to get that administration up and running January 20th, when right after the inauguration.
Right. So if Flynn was a massive player in a big Trump-Russia conspiracy to rig an election, then there is no chance that he would be let off with 0 jail time, because if you give that kind of testimony, you'd be getting away with treason. So there is no way that you would get nothing for all of this if it was such a big deal. Are you with me so far?
I'm with you.
All right, this is good. All right, so most important, it says in the memo, if you read it again, because I've read it a few different ways, that Flynn gave significant evidence in regards to several ongoing investigations and unspecified criminal investigations, and the investigations concerning Russian government and individuals associated with Trump. And if you go back, you can see that, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. Why is the criminal investigation redacted and the Russia probe into Trump is not redacted? I feel that's highly significant. I think you and I may have discussed that offline here or there, but I feel that that's very significant that it is the investigation redacted. So why would it be unredacted? The word Russia would have been redacted. Okay.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. I'm with you. I'm with you.
I'm fired up. So I feel that part is more of the bombshell side, because Mueller just revealed he is currently assisting in multiple ongoing investigations, one of which we know to be criminal and is most likely being redacted because it could be compromised or compromised names or witnesses or defendants that are not yet being put up front, out there in the open. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I think this is massive. If the mystery criminal investigation is ongoing, therefore it must be redacted. That would mean that Trump and Russia intel would need to be redacted on this document, and it is not, unless it's no longer an ongoing investigation. And Tracy, if you go back a little bit to a President Trump tweet that he did a few days ago, there's a particular tweet, and the tweet said on the date, I'm looking forward to my notes, on December 3rd at 10:56 a.m., it says, Bob Mueller, and then in parentheses says, who is a much different man than people think, and his out-of-control band of angry Democrats don't want the truth. They only want lies. The truth is very bad for their mission. So Mueller, potentially in this scenario, and I don't like to use hat colors here, but if you really look at this, if he's looking at all angles, that would make him sort of a gray hat, meaning he's looking down all roads, and wherever it leads, they lead. And he's been using General Michael Flynn. He's met with 19 times at an average cost of $50,000 per visit for General Michael Flynn. And you got to believe that General Michael Flynn has been working very hard to help and aid as a general to work on these other scenarios, which could include McCabe no longer being there, Strzok no longer being there, Page no longer being there. I know I'm missing people. Priestap no longer being there. So I feel that it all adds up to that. I believe that Mueller's doing his job, and people are going to be shocked. And the most shocked ones, Tracy, at the end, I believe, will be the left, who has been touting Mueller, and they think we're demonizing him. And when he lays it all out, and it turns out to be what we believe it to should happen, the left will have nothing left to say.
Oh, the left has been roasting me. They've probably been coming after you since
Yes.
this memo, because since the memo came out, because
Yes.
they believe that this memo is a smoking gun. See, he flipped on Trump. There is no way, no how that he flipped on Trump, and there are several reasons why. Like you just laid out. But look, General Flynn spent most of his adult life battling the bad guys, i.e., the Russians.
Yep.
So now we're supposed to believe that because he now is working with the Trump administration, he's allying himself with the Russians and doing bad things. That whole premise doesn't make any sort of rational sense. Also, Mike Flynn Jr. sent out a tweet yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
which was a very, very big message to all of us General Flynn supporters. It was President Trump walking with General Flynn. President Trump's got his arm around him, and they're looking very united, very happy, very patriotic. That was a sign that, relax, guys, this is a very good thing for Trump. Now, the, people forget, who did Michael Flynn work for before he worked for Trump in Intel? He worked for the Obama administration.
Mm-hmm.
This is very significant.
It is.
What if the investigations that he's giving information on have to do with that? What if it's in the Obama administration? What if it's Obama himself? What if it's crooked Hillary? We have no idea what he gave information on, but I guarantee you he's got a lot of information to wheel and deal on the Obama administration.
You're right. Yep. Now, there's and was a one extra piece. Now, President Trump met with Bob Mueller. Bob Mueller could not continue running the FBI. And so President Trump had a meeting with Bob Mueller. And President Trump also knows Bob Mueller was associated with Uranium One. Mm-hmm. So, could have President Trump used a chip in the game card that says, look, I do have this information here, so I'm going to task you in this new position, which a day later, he became what? The new position he's in now as the, SC? Mm-hmm. Special Counsel?
Special Counsel.
Yeah, so he was installed, I believe it was the day after that. So if it's the day after, they have a meeting, and he holds the Uranium One thing saying, look, I do have this. I'm expecting you to do your job and do the right thing and look into all things. I believe then what you just added with the Obama piece, the Uranium One piece, would tell me that I have a very high 90 percentile up there that Bob Mueller's going to do his job. And by the way, along the way, he'll find a Manafort mistake. He'll throw a little Papadopoulos in a jail, and he'll find some low-laying fruit along the way that's like cleanup work that shows that he did extra diligence for the Democrats. Look, I went as far as found a little Papadopoulos and put him in jail. I went and I found Manafort not paying his taxes or moving money around. He could do that. I mean, that is possible. So those three elements that we just put together, I think equal a very tight, a great opportunity. I didn't see the photo, by the way.
Yeah, you have to go on Mike Flynn Jr.'s page. That was a clear signal to all of us. Rest easy. He would never go against Trump. And, when I was reading this memo, Mike, what I saw and what I heard in my head was Mueller basically saying to the court, this Flynn, this general, he's a pretty good guy. Go easy on him, Your Honor. And that's the same exact thing that President Trump said to James Comey, if you recall. So there's no way that they could get President Trump for trying to obstruct by just saying, hey, he's a good guy. But, speaking of Comey, we now know that Comey and his cronies lied to the FISA court to get the FISA warrant. That there's a new email chain that was produced that's supposed to be declassified, where the FBI acknowledges in this whole chain of emails that the intelligence community had concerns about the Steele dossier before they secured that warrant, and that the FBI knew that Steele was talking to the media before they obtained the FISA warrant, which is really important because remember, they used that Michael Isikoff Yahoo News article to do circular reporting to partially get this warrant. So there's fraud all over this. This whole investigation is fraudulent. I would love to see it, all these convictions be overturned just because of the premise. And if Trump does go ahead and give some pardons, which I hope that he does, even a Manafort, which would definitely be like a second term type of thing he would have to do.
For sure.
The the Supreme Court, is actually hearing a case now about double jeopardy between federal trials and state trials. Because if Manafort's convicted at the federal level, you would think he can't be tried on the state level if Trump pardons him. But yeah, he can. Double jeopardy doesn't
protect that.
Yeah, it doesn't move to the other. So it looks like the Supreme Court, it looks like even Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Clarence Thomas, Justice Kavanaugh, they're all aligned that they think that that's double jeopardy. And they want to make sure that if you get tried in the federal court, you can't get tried in the state court for the same crime. So it's going to be interesting. All of this stuff kind of interweaves. So I hope you followed all of that because I'm all over the place.
It does, though. It does. This huge puzzle, if we were laying it out on this awesome table, when it's done, it's going to be quite the portrait and quite the original movie. But when you, and the ending part would be the photo that you just described, because if that's the photo and the son, being as close as he is to his father, puts out that photo, you would never ever post that photo without having any intimate, some type of knowledge of some sort of authenticity and good feelings.
Yeah, after having met Mike Flynn Jr. and speaking with him at Walkaway March, this is a family that is just, I can't say enough great things about this family, and I can't say enough great things about General Flynn. There is no way, no how, no shape, no form did General Flynn ever flip on the president.
Period.
Now, I swear, I really believe this has more to do with the Obama administration than anything else. And that's why it reads, here's what the investigation is, black line all through it.
Right, and it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's big. So it's involving quite a few people.
It is. Last quick comment on that is Comey supposed to testify tomorrow behind closed doors, and people are being told that the redacted version of the full readout will be given to news agencies on Saturday to start reading through if things work out. And I heard someone say, I think it was Judge Napolitano, who has not been doing very well lately, but he agrees, I agree with him on this point, that we should be allowed to see a video version of that testimony with the names muffled out of anything that's, names and procedures and things we shouldn't hear. But I believe we should have a video version for the American people. I would like to see that.
I would love that full transparency.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, that would be awesome. I'm glad that they are keeping him behind closed doors so he can't weasel out. So if they do produce this chain of emails, he cannot weasel out of this one. There's no way he can weasel out and say, I can't talk about that because it's classified.
Right. This is the top weasel, by the way, so he ain't getting out of anything. And by the way, this is our last chance, and we are at the bottom of the ninth, and we need to swing for the fences and get what we need to get out of someone who is this egregious. So we tackled that topic, and you know what, Tracy? I bet we didn't even hit on every part of that puzzle. But we still did very well in that topic. And we have time for a little bit more on one more topic, which is one I know you wanted to tackle a little bit, which was what's up and coming for the House, including Pelosi, and some of your thoughts and comments there. And let's talk that out a little bit and see what do you see coming with Pelosi?
Before we even get there, I think that one day we really have to just spend one episode going through from beginning to where we are now on the whole Russia investigation, because it is so involved. Like, that would be a super show. You would need charts. You would need some Ross Perot charts.
We would. Now read the pie chart.
Maybe a bingo card at home. But I think that would be so cool because there's so much and so many people involved. So I think that would be kind of
cool. That's a special, Tracy. I think people would appreciate that special if we really had the graphics behind it. I think they would say, like, wow, I now understand from start to finish the date it started with a timestamp all the way till the completion.
That would be viral material.
It would be,
they would use
viral.
that.
I agree with you there. We have to talk about that one. That is a fantastic idea. It's a lot of work.
Oh, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It definitely is going to take us a lot of man hours
Yes, it
outside here,
is.
or non binary,
Yeah.
unary,
X.
whatever it is
Yeah.
that the liberals. So I don't offend the liberals, but yeah. So I'll get back to Pelosi. So
Okay.
Pelosi, basically she said that she's not going to agree to funding the border wall at all, even in exchange for a permanent fix for DACA to avoid a government shutdown. So this is actually a very, very good thing. So remember, Pelosi is going to sadly take control of the House, right? She wants to be the speaker, and she needs votes from the progressive wacko wing led by the Ocasio-Cortez
Right.
contingent. She also needs the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. You'll hear about them probably in the next couple of weeks,
Sure.
the CHC. So she can't agree to anything. This puts us in a great position because the government is going to shut down, because there is not going to be any deal at all. There's not going to be 1.6 billion. There's not going to be 5 billion. So it's going to get shut down. And this is going to work like it did for Chuck Schumer, which was not very well because the shutdown was on his shoulders the last time. Now it's going to be on Nancy's shoulders. Now they're going to shut down the government. Trump is going to offer them way more, art of the deal, way more than they ever asked for, and they are going to continually, say no. And this is great because now the shutdown is going to be their fault. Eventually, they're going to have to come to the table and bargain. Otherwise, it's going to not work out so well for them. What really irritates me is Senator Cruz came out with a bill, and it's basically a bill to fund the wall, and it's basically taking away welfare and entitlements from illegal aliens and using that to pay for the wall. It sounds so simple. It sounds great. It's got the whole 25 billion there. Why now, Ted? Like, why couldn't you put this out 6 months ago when we had both houses? I hate when it's a great bill. Don't get me wrong. Maybe you just brainstorm that idea, but I cannot stand when Republicans put together these great bills when it doesn't count, when the chances of it passing are very, very slim because we lost one of the chambers.
Right. And, we couldn't even get 5 people to agree on anything. And then I this morning I was trying to figure out how many people are actually fighting with and for our president. And I only person I know that's going to be on a committee to fight will be Jim Jordan. I see Kellyanne fighting because she has issues with her husband, and Kellyanne is such a great advocate, and to see this happen is so. It really is dirtying the moment because it's so beautiful. It really makes it bad what he's doing to embarrass her. But I didn't want to head down that road. But what I'm getting at is not many people are so supportive over this 100-point lead we have in all these categories. And we could be capitalizing on it. And now, like you said, we're going to have a year and a half or 2 years worth of back and forth, fake back and forth, Ted's wall idea. And that's going to go nowhere. And it already could have been done and funded multiple times over. In fact, Tracy, if we simply just don't send the next set of money to Guatemala and El Salvador, we could pay for 3 walls or 4 walls if you'd like.
Of course. I mean, that sounds like such a simple solution. Heck, if we just close down the border like Trump has threatened, the tourism that they would lose alone, Mexico, I think that they would submit and give us 5 million at least as a down payment for part of the wall. So there's a lot of options for us. But when President Trump says there's going to be a wall, now there has to be. In the next 2 years, there has to be some sort of wall in progress, because this is going to be an issue that people are going to vote on. So there has to be a wall in the next 2 years. Come hell or high water, he's going to find a way to build that wall. There's no doubt.
Do you agree that if there's a deal to be made for the wall or any deal with the House not in our control anymore, that this is the president that could make a deal?
Yeah, he could. The Democrats are going to make it extraordinarily difficult. I think what the better route is to do is to possibly, and I'm not a big executive order person, don't get me wrong, but maybe authorize it as a Homeland Security measure. That way we would be able, because it is, if you see the migrant and immigrant Caravan invasion that's coming up, that is an invasion, and that could be construed as an act of war. That's an invasion. So
absolutely, and the president can act. You are
Right.
correct, and you don't need congressional approval or anything. There are many we could do. We could do it through the military budget. The 716 billion, the 700 billion is 1.416 trillion, and we could use the Army Corps of Engineers. And by the way, our military is fantastic. They build bridges in foreign countries in like a week. So they can do all kinds of things, and I know we could make it happen. And I'm sure creatively we could get it back from a country to pay for it rather quickly through the USMCA by creatively changing a couple of language in there, you know?
Of
And
course.
so your idea may have to work. And now Obama was a big proponent of executive fiat because he wanted to actually write his own laws. This is a way to get around when Congress doesn't act.
Yeah, and it's not an executive order that can be undone, because if somebody else, oh goodness, let's hope that never happens. But if somebody else were to get in to government, they can't undo a wall. What are they going to do? Knock it down? It's not going to happen.
Right.
And President Trump's a builder. It's not going to take 10 years to build the wall. It's going to get done in a short period of time, or
Sure.
at least begun. So he could just definitely be very sneaky when it comes to negotiating this budget, adding a few $billions into Homeland Security's coffers, if you will, and writing the executive order after the deal's already made, because there's no stipulation that says what that money has to be used for. Because
Right.
Nancy has been very, very vehement, as well as Chuck, because they're getting pressure from the wacko progressive
I
wing
know.
that's hijacking the party, that any money we give you for border security cannot be used to build a barrier, when we have them on tape years ago saying that they wanted to build a wall. So,
You know, digging deeper, knowing, I've followed his career for, I think it's 33, 34 years. I have some history there. I've met him a couple times. It's a big deal to me to see that swagger that he carried in business in New York. He is New York in many forms. You live there, you know.
absolutely.
And so I sit back and I say, okay, if there's a deal to be made, this man somehow knows there's something they want that none of us has figured out yet. There might be something that's never been discussed yet on the table that Pelosi and the gang want. We don't know what that is yet. Let's say it has nothing to do with DACA. It's something we haven't even got creative in understanding yet, okay? It could be something out of this world different. But if anyone could find it, he could. And if there's a deal to be made and he could broker it, what that would do for the nation, in a sense, which I want better for the nation, is set a better precedence for dialogue. That is gone, and you know it's gone, and it's very hard to get it back. And so I was asking for a moratorium. If the liberals would give a moratorium for a week and let us sit down with them and explain, look, I'm going to list to you all the good things that are going on. You're going to show me that it's also affecting you and your paycheck and all these other things, so we can get on agreement that you can at least look in the mirror and say the decisions that were made affected you positively. Now, the rest of your problem is you just don't like him because of words, and I want to have a good dialogue about it. So I wish we could have that moratorium to set a better precedent. But I think if there's a deal to be made, President Trump is the right person to be able to strike an incredible deal when you least expect it the most. And I think that's still possible.
To build buildings in New York, Mike, you got to be a great schmoozer.
Yeah.
You can argue that being a real estate developer in New York City is probably more difficult, if not the same difficulty, as Washington, D.C.
Yes.
So it's going to be very interesting to see where we go from here. You sound a little bit more optimistic than I do, because I just feel like the House is going to do its job, and their job to them is just obstruct. They don't care about the American people. They just care about staying in power and stopping President Trump until 2020 comes around. What's been making me really mildly nauseous, to borrow a term from Jimmy Comey, this week, is the love fest that they've been, the mainstream media has been talking about when it comes to Bush 41. And they make it sound like it was a better time when Reagan was in office and when he was in office. The media and the Democrats were terrible to Reagan. They were terrible to Bush 41. My goodness, were they terrible to Bush 43?
Yeah.
It was never like this hokey, let's all work together for the good of the American people by the Democrats. It's always been like this. We just didn't see it. It didn't hit us as much in the face because we didn't have the 24/7 news cycle You didn't have Twitter, you didn't have any of that stuff. So you got to get away from it and decompress. You didn't have politics in your face 24/7. So, Trump is against the same obstacles that Reagan was and that Bush was. And look, when Bush 41 made a deal with the Democrats to go back on his promise that there would be no new taxes, that's what really, really sank him. That, and of course, we got sued, or the whole nation got sued.
Absolutely.
and of course, the globalism that he was the father of American globalism, really. But there were a lot of things in his presidency that weren't good. But when he made that deal with the Democrats, that's what sunk him. So we'll see. It remains to be seen. Will the Democrats yield to Trump's dealing and skills? Look, Trump is workable. If you go to him and you plead your case and he pleads his case and
Absolutely.
you guys come with it, he wants to come up with the solutions. It's them. Do they want to come up with the solutions?
He does.
I don't think so.
And I think there's one last chip before we finish this last piece is, with all the intel he must have, you have to believe that he has intel on someone, including a Pelosi-like person or a Schumer-like person, that could be used in his favor to broker.
Ew, like a sex tape or something. Ew.
But there's got to be something. There's got to be something in his favor that, and when I say intel, it could be something from the Panama Papers. It could be, money offshore misspent, rogue travel on government dollar. There might be something to be said out there, but
they've been in politics long enough. They're skeletons.
Yeah,
you just got to dig deep for them. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're talking about, these are the old timers now. I mean, this is Pelosi's last foray. That's left. This is it. This is it. So everyone, this is what we covered today. We went very thorough again for an update on the Caravan and what's going on at the border. And Tracy's still digging deep with her contacts there. And it turns out that what's being reported is actually not a full understanding of what's really happening there with the illnesses and the diseases and the sicknesses and the support to help these folks, right? And on top of that, we went deep into the Mueller Flynn, and then we ended up here talking a little Pelosi. And next week, I don't know, we may end up on some of these same topics again, Tracy, because they're never ending as we continue.
No, you have to say that the opposition media should be praying for a President Trump victory in 2020, because it's going to be so boring without him. Don't you think? Like, what are we going to talk about if Trump's not in office? He's just the most exciting president ever.
That's right. It would be super boring, by the way, and super. They would lose a ton of dough as well. So I had a lot of fun today on Patriots Nation. Tracy, tell everyone where they can find you, and also any other upcoming shows you have coming on.
Yeah, well, we have The Better View. We run that on Thursday night, as I like to call it, Thursday night. And I want to give a shout out to Scott John Faraday. He really redid my website. It looks great, politidiva.com. There's a nice Patriots Nation page. And Mike, we even did a little bio on you, and we can link right to your shows on there. So your periscopes are on there. It looks super awesome. So check out politidiva.com and on Twitter at RealPolitidiva.
Excellent. Thank you for setting that up. You can find me at The Best Closer on Periscope, on Twitter, and on Facebook. And you know where to find me in the morning, everyone. I'm always on anyway. I'm always there. And then Tracy and I will be back. And Tracy promises to make appearances on my show upcoming soon. So we will have maybe bits of Patriot Nation right in my morning show, so we can bring Politidiva on in the morning or late at night.
Wait, so do you broadcast on a late Friday night, 1:30 in the morning?
No, I take Friday evening off.
Okay, because I was going to say, because then, I have a beer, sit back.
Well, there are some holidays coming up. You do have some holidays coming up, so I know you get some days off. What about a snow day?
Absolutely. You'll see me on a snow day.
Snow day it is. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for spending time with us on Patriots Nation, and we'll see you back again within a week. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.